I'm sure you have, but really quick, Instadapp is a DeFi asset manager. We leverage various dApps and tools to better manage your DeFi portfolio across different protocols. And then we also have a complete SDK, which is developer friendly. It's in JavaScript. And then recently now we just added the Gelato automation, which is what we're going to talk about today, and how that's going to kind of supercharge what's the possibilities on Instadapp. So we're really excited. So the first one we're going to talk about is the Vault automation, but then we'll kind of talk more about the technicals, and then we'll speculate on what other use cases that we're going to be able to build. So we have one of our Intadapp developers here. We have Thrilok. I'm going to let him introduce himself, and then I think probably Luis or someone from Gelato will take over.
Hey everyone, Thrilok over here. So I develop smart contracts and backend at Intadapp. So I usually do the smart contracts at work and then stuff. It's like pretty cool that the automation came live this month. Yeah. So Luis from Gelato.
So maybe I should speak next. Yeah, I'm Luis. I'm from Gelato. Originally started the project with Hilmar back in 2019, where funded by Gnosis originally, and built some automation stuff for them, and then continued work on automation and made a general protocol out of it, which is in version 1 currently. Soon there will be a version 2. Spoiler alert. Yeah, and I mainly also worked on the smart contract part and also the backend part, building the relay software that most of the bots in the network use. And yeah, since September, we also grew our team quite a bit. So Hilmar and I are definitely not the only ones anymore. We're 8 people at Gelato, some of which are in the call. Honorable mentions to Matthieu from our team, who worked very closely with Intadapp on the first Intadapp action feature, this auto debt bridge refinancing. Yeah, that was a lot of his work there. Yeah, and looking forward to all the stuff we can build together with Intadapp, all the future automations that we can ship.
Matthieu, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit and kind of tell us what you worked on?
Hi. Yes, so I'm Matthieu. So I joined the Gelato team in September during an hackathon. So Luis and Hilmar just proposed me to work with Gelato and to do some automation stuff. And yes, I found that it's amazing Gelato, because we are missing this automation part on the blockchain, and Gelato just solve this issue, right? And with the ecosystem of Instadapp, and we contact Hilmar and Luis put me on the Instadapp project with Samyak, Thrilok, and yes, we just developed something amazing, that the automation of refinancing using Intadapp and the magic of Gelato. So it's amazing, and I think we will have some amazing stuff that will come with the new version of Gelato and the new type of vault, etc., that will be made in the future.
Yeah, and well, what's super cool about how Matthieu joined us, he actually hacked something together using Intadapp's contracts and Gelato at the hackathon. So that was kind of like what he did, and so he like started with that right away, and he built like an amazing I think a take profit it is, right, Matthieu? So basically like a feature.
Yes.
Take profit and stop loss or something, yeah. So yes, basically exactly. you can schedule take profit orders and stop loss orders through your Intadapp DSA smart wallet account using Gelato in the background, and he actually built like a UI for that as well. So and he hacked it together fairly quickly. So that kind of like showcased that Gelato and the Intadapp system are quite compatible, and you can like hack together arbitrary use cases with it. And yeah, he did a really great job
I'm like, when is that going to be on Instadapp? Are you gonna? Is that the next Instadapp action? I'd love to automate my profits.
Yeah, I've got some ones on the bucket list that I just need for myself. As an Intadapp power user, I've got kind of like my list there, and the next one we can talk about later. Yeah, I've got an idea.
Very good, very good. All right, do we want to kind of walk through a little bit of how Gelato works? Because I think that's, for people, that's kind of the part that is kind of difficult. But one of you guys want to start kind of explaining how that works, and then we'll talk about how it goes into Instadapp specifically.
Yeah, I can do that, and anyone can add any additions later if they want to. So Gelato, as you said, is sometimes not as easy to understand for outsiders, for end users, because we are more like on the lower part of the stack, of the technology stack. We're more a protocol for developers. So our users are mainly developers. So like Intadapp developers, for example. And we're basically an API to a smart contract protocol, and developers can use this API to submit their users tasks, or they can let their users submit tasks. And then those tasks are automated for the users. So these tasks can be completely arbitrary. The protocol is general. You can package any sort of data or smart contracts you want to call into this task. So this can be, for example, an automatic trading on Uniswap done with Connect Uniswap, or anything else also in the Intadapp ecosystem could be packaged into this task and then submitted to Gelato. Quite notably, a task consists of a condition and an action, and the condition is a very Gelato specific thing. This is basically the thing you want to be monitored and that you want to automatically react to, for example, a price change, or for example, the ETH price change is a very famous one. Either direction, you might want to take some profit, or you might want to protect your collateral position if the ETH price crashes. Yeah, so that's Gelato pretty much in a nutshell. It's basically a finished protocol and API for developers to really easily use. And around that, we are building tooling in order to make developers' lives easier. At the moment, it's still quite tough sometimes because there's not too much documentation out there yet, and everything has to be end-to-end tested. But we're on good track of making it a whole lot easier for developers to integrate us.
Yeah, and maybe if I can add like a small thing, like what Luis already emphasized, is it's basically when a user goes to Intadapp right now, he can, for example, in one transaction, get his debt position from Maker to Compound, for example, right? And the only thing kind of like what they can do with how Gelato comes in there is, rather than doing it right now, you do it later, and you can define when this later should be. Should it be when the ETH price is below a certain threshold? Should it be when the interest rate changed a certain bit? So you can make it conditional, basically. So Gelato enables you to make transactions conditional, and we actually started off calling conditional transactions, but that was kind of like too tacky, and so yeah, that's basically what Gelato is, and it works really well with Intadapp system, with Intadapp's proxy system, with the kind of like the connectors you have, and so it's just a really good fit.
I wonder if, Thrilok, did you want to speak a little bit about connectors? Because that's something that we use around, like we use it very comfortably, but it's not the easiest thing. It's also very unique to our product.
Yes, sure. So on Instadapp, we have this system called the connectors. So every user will deploy a simple proxy contract, which is just a simple contract, which is just this much. And this simple contract will be interacting with many different connectors. These different connectors will be having arbitrary, different logics, like how it should interact with the protocol. With this, our system can easily adapt to any changes the protocol has done or anything, without the user needs to much focus like what's happening under. So they could just use the single contract and do much transaction. With the same connectors, you could just build up a blocks over a block, and you could create a complex transaction where you could integrate flash load, spells, depositing, borrowing and lending spells, or anything, which a user can do in just one single transaction. so user doesn't need to worry much about how the exact thing is going. You can just interact with the feature that's already been integrated. So that's why integrating with Gelato was the easiest thing. So we could adapt it easily, and we could launch the feature for the users.
Yeah, actually, from a developer's perspective, the connectors also for us was really amazing to use them for our first proof of concept. We were able to reuse a lot of the pre-shipped code that Instadapp already has. Instadapp has these connectors that are like very well packaged up interactions with known protocols like Maker and Uniswap. Instadapp already handles all the complexity of interacting with them for you, kind of in these connectors, and you can reuse them in like typical Legos, like piece them together. And that's what we did with Gelato. Basically, we just reused what Instadapp already has. Like we weren't intrusive to your system. We kind of like reused your own connector style and even your own connectors, and just package them up in a way that Gelato nodes can understand it and automate it. But yeah, most of the components you already have, we were able to reuse. Pretty cool.
Yes.
All right, awesome. So I guess maybe we should talk about how it works on Instadapp specifically, and how this mashup comes together. And we can use our first Intadapp action as an example if you guys want to kind of walk us through how that specifically works.
Matthieu, maybe would you like to give kind of like a high level overview of how it works maybe first, and then we can kind of dive into the details?
Sure. So how this works is the connector, the debt bridge is a dynamic one. So when some user have a position on Maker, the user can have a vault, and this vault can be safe at the moment, but in the future that it can be unsafe. And at this, when the vault will be unsafe, maybe he wants to move his position in another protocol where his position will be safe, right? So because there are other parameters on other protocol, like the collateralization ratio, that is lower. Yes, lower. So it's more safe on other protocol. So you want to move that, and with Gelato we can make it automatic. And what the debt bridge use case we implement for the ETH vaults is more than that, because it's dynamic. So it will just check that which protocol on which protocol we can move this position on, right? So if, for example, on the for example, if we can do it on the Aave one, it will do it on the Aave. But for example, if Aave didn't have liquidity enough, it will move on the ETH vault and etc. It will check for each protocol if it's possible. If not, it will check the other one. But if none of them can do it, we will not do the refinance, right? Because even if we do it, the position will be unsafe. So we will do just when it's possible and we can save the position.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe just to revert back just a notch, why like how is this coming? Like why would you use it in the first place, right? So at the moment, you can basically on MakerDAO, this is a lending protocol. What you can do is you can deposit ETH, and let's say you don't want to sell your ETH, right? You want to keep it, but you basically want either you want some DAI or some stable coins because you need to pay some bills, for example, or you want to borrow some funds to actually buy more ETH to go leverage. This is what kind of like the crazy dudes do, like myself. Or you just want to borrow some DAI and you want to lend it out on another protocol because currently you earn like 10% interest there or something, right? So these are the sort of things you want to do on Maker, but you always need to manage this collateralization ratio, and you always have to have a certain ratio of your collateral, which is in ETH, in comparison to the DAI or the debt you borrowed. And sometimes when ETH prices crash, then your position may be at risk of getting liquidated by these liquidator bots that are like bad people. They want to steal your money away from you. You don't want to get liquidated. And basically what Instadapp allows you to do is they formed this bridge for you. Basically, they put like stones together and they form this bridge so you can easily move your position somewhere else, right? And through that mechanism, you can prevent being liquidated, and you prevent having to pay fees to the Maker protocol. Problem here is though, you can do that, but that means you have to kind of like set alerts on your phone and get like at 3 a.m. in the night, you have to get a call and say, okay, now you need to click this button, right? And basically how Gelato comes in is Gelato, you can just say, hey, I want it to be done on my behalf later on when I'm asleep or I'm at the beach chilling out. And Gelato is kind of like this engine that kind of like starts and it executes the whole Intadapp debt bridge on your behalf later on. And that's why these two systems play in together quite nicely.
I was gonna say, so Gelato is the button clicker essentially, right? You set up the buttons, and they will press the buttons for you based on different conditions.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like when you like, for example, it's a very bad analogy, but Intadapp kind of like paths the way. It creates the way, or like, kind of like the rails you want to travel from A to B. And Gelato kind of like pushes you over, or it starts the engine of the car or something. That's kind of like a really bad analogy, but it's something like that.
Yeah.
And what's also really important to mention at this point is that Gelato can do this without taking custody of users' funds or anything. Like Instadapp has this amazing DeFi smart wallet, right? That users, like a smart contract wallet, basically, that users have their funds in. It makes user experience a lot better because now you can batch all these transactions and so on, and smart contracts are amazing. So the cool thing here is Gelato doesn't need custody of these funds. Like Gelato isn't intrusive here. Everything works trustlessly. Users don't have to trust Gelato with their funds. And we can still automate interactions like this completely. And yeah, this is done by a network of bots who basically continually monitor the conditions of all the tasks in the system. And when a condition is right, they execute it and they get a small fee in order to cover the cost and get some reward for it. That's basically the idea. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So I wanted to, I guess now we can speculate, now that we know a little bit of how Gelato works and how Instadapp works, we can kind of speculate a little bit about what potential use cases. Now I know you guys have some special use cases for yourself, but we can also talk about what is possible on Instadapp. I know our CTO mentioned a specific use case, a different type of reduction of your liquidation. So instead of, let's say, moving you from one protocol to another, we could potentially swap your collateral, right? So if you were longing BAT, which doesn't have as much of a collateral factor, let's say if the price was going down, we could switch you over into something that has a higher collateral factor, like wrapped Bitcoin or possibly Ethereum. Do you guys want to speak about maybe some of those ideas that have been springing up with Instadapp? Could be anyone.
Yeah, why don't I go first? I think there was a bit of feedback from your background, but it's gone now. Yeah. So yeah, I mean the possibilities are endless here. Instadapp already has so much smart contract pre-made. Like you guys have figured out how to talk to Uniswap, right? You figured out how to talk to all these lending and borrowing protocols. So we have a bunch of things that we can automate next. I know that Samyak, your CTO, was quite interested as a next thing in automating the swap of collateral. Like you said, this is quite cool because we can, instead of making use of other protocols like moving your Maker vault to Aave or Compound, we just stay on Maker. But if there's the stress, right? If your collateral price crashes, for example, you might use Uni as collateral and it has very high collateral requirements. So your position will be unsafe sooner than with other collaterals. So if that is the case, Gelato can be used to very easily just basically take your collateral and use use your connector for 1 inch and to convert it to some collateral like ETH that has much lower collateral requirements and therefore will buy you more time in times of distress. And therefore, basically, the theme here, by the way, the same as with the first feature that we just shipped already. And the theme here is minimizing your risk of liquidation. It's not actually completely saving you. This is more for people that want to stay long ETH or some other collateral and want to minimize the risk of liquidation, buying you some time in times of distress. The nice thing about this is that in this process, at least for the first feature that we already shipped, you don't have to sell any ETH in order to minimize your risk, right? You just move it elsewhere. Here with the collateral swaps, I guess you would sell your collateral for another collateral type, but that other collateral type you might also be long on. So you don't have to go to, like, I don't know, a stable coin or something just yet. You can remain long on more volatile coins. Yeah, so I think that's a really cool next thing to do.
Yeah, I was going to say what I like about this automation is that what we're creating is capital efficiency. So now you're able to really take your assets and use them in a more efficient way. And I actually do think that overall, this is kind of what people are trying to do. They're trying to put their money here, but then have it do something else, and then have it do maybe a third thing. But the problem with that is, if these prices fail, if you have a position in one of these, then, moving that around is very complicated. Or if you are sleeping, if it's the wrong hour of the day. So having that certainty, okay, this is gonna unwind itself, allows you to really just get the most for your assets.
Yeah, this is, I think, a really good point of you. And basically what we are building here is really like with Intadapp together, this DeFi asset management platform that makes your money completely fluid and just moves it autonomously between assets, between protocols. And for you, it's just your money is in some token, doesn't matter what it is, a stablecoin, ETH or something, but it can, like, Intadapp build these bridges, so it can be transformed with a click of a button or with a transaction by Gelato into something new, right? And at the moment, this change, it doesn't happen that often. Why? Because a transaction on Ethereum costs like $200, right? and this is like sometimes even like inefficient to just do. But yeah, we have to fast forward a couple of years or months, right? And they are like these assets, they might be swapped or exchanged like on a second basis or on a minute basis. Like in the second, there's another where you can lend out your ETH on another protocol with higher interest rate. You do so. The moment you can swap your collateral of your debt position to something which pays less fees, you do so, right? Your money doesn't stay at one point; it moves around all the time, like every second, every minute, every half hour. And I think this is like where we will move, and money will become super fluid, move from one place to another. It's not this one thing anymore. And basically, Intadapp builds this world where you can just easily move and make these assets completely fluid. And we have basically kickstarting the whole process and making it conditional, right? And I think this is where we move to. At the moment, it's still rigid a bit because like Ethereum is slow, conditions move slowly, but like you have to think about when like billions are being traded back and forth every day and these things are lightning fast, then it will be really fun.
So my background is extremely loud. That's why but just I wanted to see if you guys could explain a little bit more about conditional actions. Sort of like what, we know that it could be like a price. It could be maybe you're looking at a liquidation. And usually, I believe you do this through price. But can you explain like maybe some of the other conditions that are available and sort of what are the other options in terms of Gelato, so we can start imagining this fluid financial future that we're building?
Yeah. So even in its current version, Gelato version 1 is already completely very powerful. It's completely general and permissionless, and anyone can build on top of it. So the conditions are really up for the developers to define themselves. The protocol doesn't have a lot of opinions about this. Basically, you can do anything. You just have to format it in a certain way when you submit it, but that's like a technical detail. It can be anything behind the condition. So on-chain, of course, as we know, there isn't too much stuff yet because we live in our own bubble, right, on Ethereum. There isn't so much outside data there. But on-chain already, you have a bunch of prices on-chain that you can use. You can use Chainlink if you want to have safe oracles. Chainlink, by the way, of course, you can also use if you want to react to maybe other data that isn't from Ethereum native yet. So in the future, you could react like to social sentiment or something if Chainlink pushes this data on chain or another oracle provider. And on chain, so you can usually the most interesting things are time, right? To begin with, for example, a lot of people might want to sell a lot of stuff. A lot of ETH or something, but they don't want to do so on an AMM like Uniswap because of the slippage. So here, what Gelato built already, like it's like 1.5 years ago, Hilmar and I actually won a prize at the Kyber hackathon back then. Is we built this, you can have this recurrent automation. Like Gelato is not just a one-off automation. You can, we haven't done this with Intadapp yet, but this is also like the protocol supports it, that you have infinite automation, we call it. So these are like recurring task cycles of tasks that themselves are infinitely repeated without manual intervention. Like the user only submits it once, sets it and forgets it, and it can perform it for eternity, basically. And this example would be if you want to sell a huge bag, want to drop it on some AMM, you don't want to do it all at once because of the slippage. You can use Gelato, for example, to sell it over 1 week, right? Like split it up into 10 bits and then sell one per day for 10 days or something like that. So this is already like time on chain. It can be really useful. A very basic condition. Balances like also topping up your balance somewhere is a typical one. And then any data that is exposed by any protocol or any dApp that has some use, you can reuse it in Gelato and create automation based upon it. Yeah.
Actually, there's an interesting question in the chat that's asking, can we, Gelato has the actions which are represented through contracts. So can we think Instadapp as a tool to create these actions easily via JS or JSON code? Yes, you could do. So Instadapp was mainly focused, the Instadapp DSA version was mainly focused to have two kinds of users. One is the normal users who just want to trade stuff and make the assets fluid. The second thing is for the developers. So developers could easily plug in our SDK. So SDK interacts with our contracts, and with just this much snippet of code, you'll be able to transfer your depth from Compound to Aave or any other protocol. And if you want to interact with a new protocol, you would definitely create a connector and then add it to our TSA ecosystem where you could make this system easy. In the same way, that's why Instadapp and Gelato were equally capable. So Instadapp was creating this actions and Gelato was kickstarting this one. And this everything happens decentralized. No one has authority of your assets. Even Gelato only just checks the condition and triggers the kickstart.
Okay, very cool. I was gonna say, like, so we have like a time clock, right? That's something you can use on the chain. And then Gelato could essentially automate any connector that's on the Intadapp platform. So if we were to integrate another protocol, then they could also just immediately be part of the Gelato automation, or you could create a new sort of Gelato action. Would that be right?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, these connectors are kind of like these like if you have like all the protocols are jungle, then what Instadapp lets you do, it kind of like guides you through the whole jungle, right? And it crafts a path, and then you have to walk this path, right? And with Gelato, it's kind of like Gelato just puts a door in front of it, and this door is closed, and then when the condition is met, it just quickly opens the door, and then you kind of fall into this path, and then you run it. And this path can be arbitrarily composed. And this is the cool thing about the connectors, right? It makes them like nicely fit together. And then Gelato is just this tool that kind of like kickstarts the whole process in the back. And I think what's for example, another cool condition, because I think that was your previous question, at the moment that was used quite a bit, is the gas prices. So because we know gas prices are crazy high, and sometimes it's just worth to execute a certain transaction when they are low, otherwise you pay too much. And so basically scheduling these transactions when gas prices are low is also quite powerful, because sometimes you can't just submit one with a lower gas price and just wait 5 days because maybe they revert or some data changes. So you want to execute it right when the gas prices are low and just submit it there with kind of like the payload freshly made. And I think this is something that a lot of people also used.
I also think it's interesting that they're all composable. So now we've heard these different conditions. One could be time, another one token prices, another one gas price, and you can combine them all to make, you know, a very custom condition that might be utilizing all three. And it could become quite powerful that I know I want to swap this token in a cycle and dump this token every day, but only if the prices are within this range and the gas is this low, something like this.
Yeah, those are all things that you will be able to do. I don't know if you guys want to get maybe into some of the more speculative other use cases that we could potentially build, or just other technical things that go above my little old non-developer brain. I know that
I could talk about the use case I want.
Okay, I like that. Let's hear the use case
and
you would like to build.
I think Samyak and Thrilok, please take notes, because this is the stuff I want to see there. Okay, as a power user of Intadapp, I demand it. So basically, yeah, what a lot of people do is they basically put ETH into Maker, right? And then they borrow DAI and they buy even more ETH. Because why not? You need more ETH, right? You can't have enough ETH in your life. And so the problem here is, so you do that obviously because you want the price to appreciate, and you like ETH, but mostly because the price should appreciate. But you need to unwind this whole position at some point, right? Or you have some specific price in mind where you would like to unwind the whole thing, and you already have this kind of leverage. You have this leverage kind of like a recipe, right? On your right side. I'm not sure if you got this deleverage one, payback debt, right? You also have the payback debt thing, I think.
Yeah, you can unwind it as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the unwinding part. And what I would like is I would really want to schedule this unwinding as kind of like a take profit, or even as kind of like a stop loss as well when things are going too crazy for me. But especially like the take profit, and like it's the bull market, like who is stop lossing here? We are all just taking profits. And
like I kind of want a what's it called, like when someone dies and you pass over your assets. I want to be able to monitor if the DeFi Smart account has had any activity, and if it hasn't had activity in X amount of years, that it would automatically assign a new owner to that account. So that way your friends and family, if you died, or maybe you lost
Bigger.
your thing, then you would have, let's say you lost your hardware wallet that had your DeFi Smart account. At least well, you know what? In 5 years, my mother is going to have access to that account. So if I just wait long enough, or if I die, that your friends and family would be able to access some of your assets. So that's something that I would really like.
In 5 years, your mom can have all your shit coins that are worthless.
Hey, it's all Ethereum. And maybe that.
Oh, that's I think that's really cool. Yeah. Any other ideas?
Thrilok, maybe you can drop some alpha leaks here on any new features you have planned with Instadapp. Maybe you have something, I don't know.
I don't know if Thrilok can spill the beans on maybe some of our upcoming ideas. I'm not sure if we're quite allowed to say.
We want to hear some alpha leak. Come on, guys.
Sorry, guys, there was like a internet connection, so yeah, I couldn't speak. Maybe one alpha leak I would leak is that we're adding a testnet support for Instadapp, so users can technically simulate everything. They could add their they could simulate each and every transaction. They see how the assets flow. Like maybe you could call it as like a using the mainnet fork, people will be able to simulate the transactions without doing any real transaction. So people will be able to do a transaction of save leverage, or let's say a debt swap or anything, and they could just try it out for free. So it's just a simulations. So from that, yeah, so that is one thing that we are planning to do, and it might be out in a couple of days, maybe like in a week or two, but yeah, that's coming.
Oh, that will be really helpful because I remember that when we developed for a lot of stuff to test it, we had to ship it to mainnet and test it on there. And
Yes,
back then it was already expensive, but these days it would have been, I don't know, triple the price.
Yes.
Even, so yeah.
Yes. So anyone could just jump into a DApp and then they could quickly create a new account. They could just deposit their assets. Here, nothing is happening on real chain. It's just the main chain has been forked and all the transactions are working on this one. So they could just see how the things are working. They could just really try it out. And if they like, they could do it on the real chain. So that's coming.
So I'm testing that feature currently on localhost. I can also give that review.
Hi, you can now.
Great. So
alpha leak incoming.
So
be ready, guys.
So basically, this is, let's say, my account, and this is my normal account with mainnet, and I'll just shift to a fork chain. And now this is all a simulation mode. This is like really exciting. Like any new user who doesn't have any assets and want to test DeFi, they can just do it. So it's just forking and it's done. So we also give them a free 100 ETH to deposit, so they can they can have fun with our DApp. So let's say I deposited 180 ETH. Now I can use it in any protocol. I can use refinancing. I can do leveraging. I can do collateral swap, DApp swap, any kind of activities that is on the DApp. Unfortunately, the automation is not possible because it depends on the Gelato APIs. So the data of the APIs on Gelato is from mainnet. But yeah, so like this is kind of really cool. Like I can just supply those assets now. I can basically try anything with those assets, and it will be like, it will show everything on real time, like on a fork net.
That's super cool.
So cool.
Perfect sandbox.
Yeah, so basically now see secure vault by automation, but yeah, that's a fake vault.
Yeah.
I see you are a dolphin.
Yeah.
I guess there's one question in the group asking that where this fork happens. So we run this fork on our on the Tenderly backend server, so they will be hosting this one. So
So we collaborated with Tenderly on this one. They are like releasing this feature publicly soon. But currently so we added their API support, and rather than going from mainnet via MetaMask, on the backend of Tenderly it creates a fork chain. I think it's good for any developer who wants to get into this. So basically every user gets their personal chain, and now they can just test the whole dApp for 30 minutes, and then they can create a new one.
That's so powerful. Such a cool idea. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, this is really cool. This is a really cool feature.
Yeah.
Is it also compatible with kind of like subgraphs and stuff?
I don't think so, because it's a Tenderly forknet. So basically it's not public. I don't think like they won't do it public, because then it will give a lot of load on the server. So basically it's attached to our account, and it's the forknet comes in under our account, so we can have an access, we can do calls, we can write and read stuff from there. So it's good for developers, and as you see, like it's also good for any dApp. I think like this will be really good if all the dApps start supporting it. Anyone can just test them out before actually putting their money in.
Actually, I was also wondering, because I mean, this is amazing for new users, right, that want to try out every aspect of your dApp without having to pay for gas at each step. Have you also had any thoughts about testing some stuff on layer 2s like XDAI or something like that, or haven't your users approached you there yet? Are they still fine with the gas prices and everything?
We are exploring layer 2, and we are like we are going to release few things, but yeah, we are going to announce something, but it's like things are still going to take time, because I think like probably 6 months or something, because the layer 2 currently doesn't have a proper like whole infrastructure. Like there is still a lot of development going on. So I think like anything on layer 2 might take 6 months. So yeah, so I think eventually everyone will like, every current project would do something in layer 2. I think Gelato too, they have plans for automations and stuff, but it also needs the ecosystem. So yeah, we are waiting for the same thing, and then we can dive in it. Yeah, but right, what interesting would be is to provide refinancing. Like till now we provided refinancing between Maker and Compound, Maker, Aave, etc. But provided refinancing from layer 1 to layer 2, so they can just port their layer 1 position into layer 2 and start managing there at cheaper rates. So that is something that we would want to do, and somehow it also relates to Instadapp and what we've been doing since the start. So that but yeah, it's gonna take time.
Yeah, but I think that will be like a natural next step for you guys, right? You bridge DeFi protocols on layer 1, right? You definitely also want to bridge protocols between layer 1, layer 2, right?
That would be best step, like bridging from layer 1 and layer 2, and bridging between layer 2s. So yeah, those two things. Yeah, because withdrawing assets from layer 2, it takes a huge amount of time. If you can just we can be a bridge possibly, but still there is a lot of technicality, but by keeping some liquidity stuff. What are the plans for Gelato?
Yeah, layer 2 is on our roadmap. We haven't invested too many resources in there yet, but we see there's a lot of potential, basically very much on the border between layer 1 and layer 2s, where you basically need to move your funds from one chain to the next, wait until some like you deposit them there, you wait until they're credited on the other chain, and then you want to do some stuff, and then you want to move back to layer 1, for example, right? And so I see there's a lot of need for basically waiting some X amount of hours or minutes until stuff is credited, until stuff can be moved from A to B or is available from here, right? But you you already want to put it into Maker, for example, right? You don't want to wait until it's credited here and then come back and to put it to Maker. You just want to click one button, which is, hey, move my funds from layer 2 to layer 1 again, and then put in Maker, right?
Yeah.
And so what I see Gelato for is, and this would be like quite good, like it would be very good fit with Intadapp again. I see this wherever you need to wait some time for things to happen between getting credited and then moving it back to Maker, for example, you can just make it seamless by saying, hey, move back to Maker, and then you can have like an Intadapp lending pool, for example, that already gives you the funds that you are, so you have it right away. So the friction is completely removed, but in the background, then there's the Gelato automation happen that then actually when the funds are credited back on layer 1 will actually move your funds then to Maker, right? And so I think these sort of things I see as quite powerful.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's quite interesting. Yeah, I mean, rather than waiting. Yeah, I mean, they just have to do one transaction and they just don't need to worry about other technicalities and everything. That's good.
Yeah. So removing friction, improving your X. Yeah.
And actually, we might explore, I guess, XDAI a bit more in detail because we were working with Omen, the prediction market from Gnosis and the DXDAO, and they basically just moved to XDAI, right? So I know that there's a PR pending in their repo from Gelato for some time now, and yeah, so now they're on XDAI. So I guess we will check that out. And technically, the backend infrastructure of the Gelato nodes should be able to also just serve like layer 2s directly, right? Like anything that's on layer 2 should also be able to be automated by Gelato, not just the bridge between layer 1 and layer 2. But of course, just we are pretty much in the same boat as you are, right? Like we're waiting for the protocols to move first, I guess. Otherwise, there's nothing really useful to automate or to bridge or whatever. Actually, one more shameless plug for the feature which we just launched, rolling back a bit to an earlier part of the conversation. So currently on Intadapp UI, there is the Maker dApp bridge between ETH A Vault and Aave Compound or ETH B, depending on what's available. One thing that we didn't mention in this call yet is that in that process, we also engaged with the Maker community. And there was a vote as well, and we got one of the Intadapp Gelato conditions whitelisted on the Maker OSM Oracle module, which is really cool because that gives the smart contract system privileged access to this data on chain that is posted by the Maker Oracle. So basically, it means that the users that make use of this dApp bridge automation are really secure because they know 1 hour ahead of time, like the automation knows 1 hour ahead of time if the new price change is being pushed by the Maker Oracle, and that buys a lot of time to do the refinancing securely. And yeah, so we are whitelisted on that Oracle together with Instadapp. And if you haven't tried out this feature, which is live on the Intadapp UI, has been live now for 8 days, so a bit more than 1 week, you should really try that out and just click one button and have it so that your debt and your collateral is the risk is minimized and you don't have to sell any.
Yeah, Matthieu, what are the current stats again there? Or how much is already kind of like automated there?
So currently we are protecting 40 million Ether on Maker side.
40?
So yes, 40 million.
Wow. I haven't checked the stats yet, but I thought like it was something around 20 million. But yeah, it's good.
Yes. Yes.
We should
and,
tweet we should tweet about it.
yes.
Yeah, it's 20 million DAI debt, but 40 million in ETH collateral. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's really cool.
Yeah, and this is 1 week in, so I think this is already quite a good traction, and yeah.
But now we need to wait until ETH dumps now. Can Samyak, can you just quickly call up Vitalik and get it done? Like I can't wait anymore.
Yeah, he can force sell a lot of ETH.
On Intadapp, and he was just so excited to know that he will not be liquidated. So guys, I just want to let you know we're getting close to the 1 hour mark. So if we have any other statements or any other things we want to say, I know some of us are busy building the decentralized financial future. But yeah, just if anyone has any other closing statements or other things they want to add.
Yeah, are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, no, perfect. No, I appreciate it. I was, I was actually curious. What are you guys using in regards to like data measurement for algorithmic trading? Because I'm imagining Instadapp is just like an execution engine, and the way you're describing things from sorry, I got my son here too. It's Gelato as well. So I guess I'm just curious. What is everyone using, or is there any general product or any suggestions?
I'm not sure I really understood the first part. Can you just ask the first part of your question again? You said where's the data coming from?
Well, data measurement. See, I'm thinking of it in the terms like, say, for instance, typical centralized trading. I'm able to use like a graph of some sort, and then some program that's able to execute trades through, some typical programming language. So I'm actually curious to know, is there something that you guys are using specifically with Instadapp and Gelato?
Yeah, so all the data is all done on chain. Actually, that's how a lot of this stuff works. So we don't use like a third-party service. We just go and look for the data on chain. So what we were describing earlier is we're getting like our price feed comes from the maker contract. Like they have a price that they monitor for their liquidations, and then we just got whitelisted to read that data. So most of the data that we would be getting would be on chain. Now, I know I'm not fully sure about Gelato, so maybe Luis or Hilmar can explain about how you would get external data. I imagine maybe with like Chainlink or something like that. But most of the stuff that we're talking about is data that's on chain, or conditions that would be read from the blockchain.
Gotcha. So you're talking about like even past price data as well, or is this just on real time?
Yeah.
At the moment, it's mostly real time, simply because the blockchain doesn't lend itself very well for data aggregation, I guess. I guess you could storing data on chain is like really inefficient, right? Unless you store it in some, really compressed weird manner that I'm not aware of right now. But at the moment, all of it is real time. However, in Gelato version 2, which we will ship very soon, the off-chain nodes basically automate that send these execution transactions. They will the protocol allows them also to post off-chain data and not only react to what's on chain already. So by then we would be able to also allow developers to make use of off-chain data directly. But that's still like it's still not finished, still not shipped, and there's a lot of use cases for it for sure, but we still have to test them out first.
Oh yeah, no, I understand. I guess I'm thinking in the terms of like, I need like the last 60 minutes of price data in order to execute the trades that I'd be interested in. Or, I guess if I'm doing some swing trading or something like that, maybe a week's worth of data. And I was just curious where you guys would find that, generally speaking, if you're going to use Instadapp for your execution and Gelato.
Yeah, so the data will come from decentralized exchanges. So we would basically check the historic prices on Uniswap, which you could do by querying the state of the blockchain in past blocks. I'm currently not aware of kind of like a visualization of that historical data on Intadapp as of now. You're probably referring to kind of like if you go to Binance or something and you want the past 5 days or so to see what the prices are, right? And you want
right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's not really there yet. But obviously that will make decision making from you much easier, right? Because then you can see, hey, in the past it was like that, and if I schedule my take profit order here, it looks like from a technical perspective that it will probably get there, right?
Yeah, exactly. See, I'm a more of a math guy than I am a programmer, so I'm just curious to know what you guys might have been using if you're like using some sort of past data to execute, forward thinking trades.
Yeah. So at the moment, it's really for the user. So at the moment, the assumption is really that the user defines when he wants to execute certain things by himself. And so basically, you would do your analysis, and then you would say, hey, I want to refinance something when the price reaches 2K, let's say. And then Gelato kind of like automates it for that. So Gelato doesn't make the decision for you. So it's not like an active management tool. It's more like we execute what you input yourself.
Right. No, and that's excellent there as it stands. I guess it was just, maybe out of general curiosity, if there was some other tool that you guys
I think
specifically.
I think the blockchain is overall not that mature yet. Like even doing that much amount of computation on blockchain, even if you have the data, it's like you can't fit it in a single block size. So I think that's something when we have like a scalability and everything, so we can use Web2 kind of stuff on Web3. But yeah,
Right.
That's interesting.
Gotcha. So I mean, so as it stands, I'm pretty much better to say use like a Coinergy API or something like that, and then execute trades as I'd like to, using Instadapp and Gelato combined together. Is that correct?
So you can get the data and the analysis done by any tool, and then potentially like you can if you want to execute trades or refinances on chain, right? You would need something like Intadapp and Gelato. If you want to do it on like an exchange, a central exchange or something, then obviously they have these features baked in, and you can use them there.
Right. Gelato version 2 is coming up with external off-chain data or something, right? I don't know.
Yeah, alpha leak, but it will still take some time.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your guys' help.
Hope we could help.
What? I shouldn't have said that, or what?
Thank you, Elsie, for your question. That was very bold of you to just jump right on in. Everyone else tends to type in their questions, so we appreciate it.
I'm not sure. I appreciate your help, though. I really do.
There was a question about if there's going to be version 2 documentation for the new Gelato. I'm assuming once it comes out.
Yeah, so we haven't even finished the version 1 documentation. So now we have some little documentation on version 1. It gets quite complex still. You have so many moving parts, right? And a lot of it is really up to the developers themselves. So we try to have some standard libraries and so on, but nothing really important out there yet that you could use. I guess there is a library, an NPM library, but it isn't that helpful, to be honest. So at the moment, it's still a very hands-on process. Like if you want to develop on Gelato, you would probably have to reach out to us on Telegram, and we would give you an onboarding and help you as well with the code. For version 2, the contracts are being finished right now. So that's like if you're a smart contract developer, you can use those as documentation soon. And there we really have a nice team now, so and more time per person working. So now for version 2, we really hope to get a good documentation out by end of March, I guess, latest. The documentation, the smart contracts will be out earlier than that, but a nice documentation by end of March.
Yeah, and I think Matthieu is working on some really cool stuff right now that will make creating these use cases much easier, and it will be very similar to how you would, for example, integrate or use Instadapp's SDK, JavaScript SDK off-chain. you can basically use something similar to just like create arbitrary automation use cases. So it will be much better, less solidity, less stuff in smart contracts. So yeah, excited about that.
That's interesting.
All right, if we don't have any more questions right now, I'm gonna let everyone go and enjoy the rest of their day or their night, depending on where you are in the world. For those of you that are following us on the chat, we're posting links to both of our Telegrams, our Discords. I posted our GitHub if you wanna look at Instadapps. If someone in Gelato, you wanna post your GitHub, because I'm sure we have a few developers quietly in here as well. And yeah, this was really awesome. It was really nice meeting you guys and seeing your faces. And if there's anything else, I think that's going to be it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.